Have you ever wondered why doing something as simple as speaking up in a meeting makes your body feel like you are literally being chased by a bear? In this video, you can expect to see an explanation of what embarrassment actually is, the hidden costs of avoiding embarrassment, what happens in the brain when we do it anyway, and how we can start taking action on this today. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm a 28-year-old who has a huge fascination in all things neuroscience, spirituality, and just generally leveling up my life. I live and breathe this stuff. I listen to podcasts while I'm cleaning. I read books before I go to bed. It's what I consume my pretty much every waking minute with. I thought it was about time that I started sharing what I've learned with people, which is why I've created social media accounts such as this one so that I can share the tips and tricks that I've learned from all my years of learning. So today, as I said, we're going to be talking a little bit about embarrassment, what that actually means in our lives, what it's holding us back from, what it's preventing us from doing, how it's basically blocking us from leveling up in every single way that we want to. So let's get into chapter 1. What actually is embarrassment and why do we feel embarrassed? So let's talk about the physiological reasons why we get embarrassed. In a nutshell, it is very hard for our brains to distinguish between a social threat and a physical threat. For example, your brain can't tell the difference between posting something on social media and letting your friends and family see it and being chased by a bear. I know that sounds ridiculous, but your brain literally reacts the same way. The reason for all this is because we have a part of our brain called the amygdala, which kicks in when we feel any kind of fear or embarrassment. Whether it is a physical threat or a social threat, your amygdala will kick in regardless. This then signals your hypothalamus to take you out of your parasympathetic nervous system and into your sympathetic nervous system. That then triggers the adrenal glands to produce things such as adrenaline, cortisol, all of these hormones. It's because of all of these hormones that you get things such as a rapid heart rate, shortness of breath. Your body is quite literally getting you prepared to fight a bear. That's why they call it fight or flight. You are getting ready to fight for your life. So it's no wonder it feels like the scariest thing in the world simply just to raise your hand in a meeting. There is another reason, according to neuroscience, that we feel embarrassment, and that is something called the spotlight effect. So basically what that means is that we are wired to believe that every single person is as focused on us as we are. Let me give you a real life example. You go out in public and you're perhaps wearing an outfit that you feel looks a little bit odd, or you're not quite feeling like yourself. You assume that every single person that you see also thinks the same thing. But the irony behind that is that every single person experiences this spotlight effect, which means that it cannot be true. Because the person you're assuming is thinking about you is thinking about themselves. They might be thinking about what you're thinking about them, but that's where it ends. Once you dive a little bit deeper into the spotlight effect and you remind yourself of this on a daily basis, it really does change your life. But anyway, those are some of the scientific reasons behind why we feel embarrassed, why we have those symptoms when we're doing something so small. Okay, let's go on to now the cost of avoiding embarrassment. I now want you to take a moment and really think about this. Has there been a moment in your life where you have purposely avoided something so that you don't feel embarrassed? And do you have any regrets from doing that? So it could be something like not applying for a job because you felt that you weren't qualified enough and you thought you might get laughed at. Not going and speaking to that person in the supermarket who you thought was really attractive and you would have loved to take on a date, but you didn't ask them because you had a fear of being embarrassed and rejected. Maybe there was a time that you really, really knew that you deserved a promotion, but you didn't come forward and ask for it, and instead your colleague got the promotion. How many moments have there been in your life where you have avoided something because you didn't want to feel embarrassed? And more importantly, what has that cost you in the long run? Let's weigh it up for a second. On the plus side, you avoid maybe 30, possibly 60 seconds worth of feeling a little bit awkward and embarrassed. But on the downside, you have potentially weeks, months, years of regret from not doing it. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, let's move on to chapter 3. What happens in our brains? Let's go back to a little bit of neuroscience and talk about what actually happens in our brain when we do the embarrassing thing anyway. So there is something called predictive processing. We are constantly predicting what is about to happen. It makes sense, really. It's a survival mechanism. You want to be able to anticipate something that's about to happen in case it's dangerous so that you can protect yourself. However, our brains have adapted to do this with everything in life. We are always predicting what is about to happen. So, up until now, if you have been purposely avoiding embarrassment, what's been happening in your brain? You have been strengthening the belief and the neural pathway that when you avoid something embarrassing, you then avoid the negative feeling, which your brain thinks is a good thing. Your brain likes to stay safe, it likes to stay comfortable. So by avoiding the embarrassing thing, your brain thinks, great, we've avoided something negative here. Let's do it again next time. But the thing about our brains is that they learn from experience, not from avoidance. If you want to change the way you do things and you want to shift your mindset, you need to put yourself in experiences that involve taking action, not avoiding. So what happens when your brain predicts that something's going to be embarrassing, that you're going to feel uncomfortable, and the whole system I spoke about earlier kicks in and you start to feel really shaky, scared, nervous, sweating, all of that stuff. As we mentioned earlier, the brain doesn't know the difference between social danger and physical danger. So the brain is predicting that you are about to be in physical danger. It's probably setting off alarm bells telling you to avoid the thing. So what happens when you do it anyway? This is where something called prediction error comes in. And then your brain realizes that what it predicted was going to happen didn't actually happen. Your brain was predicting that if you went through with the thing, you were going to be in physical harm. And all that maybe happened was you felt uncomfortable for 30 seconds or so. This is when your neuroplasticity kicks in. It creates a new neural pathway in your mind. It teaches your brain that actually nothing bad does happen. Even though we did the embarrassing thing, we didn't die. Nothing bad happened. And as we know, down to neuroplasticity, the more you repeat something, the easier it gets. So next time you do the embarrassing thing, it will feel a little bit easier. You might still have some of the symptoms, but they will be less than they were the time before. It's a little bit like exposure therapy, I guess, where the more you expose yourself to something, the less of a big deal it becomes. That is what happens in your brain once you do the embarrassing thing anyway. So let's move on to chapter 4. I realized that telling you just to do the embarrassing thing anyway is easier said than done. Sometimes in the situations where we're trying to avoid something embarrassing, we actually feel like we are paralyzed. Like you have no option whatsoever but to stop doing what it is you want to do. I appreciate that. I know how scary some of these situations can be. As I keep going back to your body and your mind at this point, really can't tell the difference between this and you fighting a bear. So let's talk about some practical tips of how you can do the embarrassing thing anyway. So the first thing that you can do is you can start relabeling your emotions. What do I mean by this? There is another very ironic fact when it comes to this whole subject, and it is that all of the symptoms that you get when you are feeling anxious and you're nervous about something are the exact same symptoms you feel when you are excited and you are anticipating something good. I know it doesn't feel like it at the time, but I promise you, what is going on in your mind and in your body are the same thing. Now, why do we have such different experiences between these two things? It's because of the story and the emotion that we attach to it. Let me put this into a real life example. Say you're trying to find a partner. You're trying to find somebody to marry. You were about to walk up to somebody in a supermarket. You don't know what's going to happen. They could laugh in your face and it could be really, really embarrassing. But if you knew without a shadow of a doubt that this person was going to be just as excited to talk to you as you are to them, and that you were inevitably going to marry this person and they were going to become the love of your life, do you think you'd be anxious or would you be excited? It's all to do with the story that we attach to the emotion. I know it sounds crazy, but tell yourself in those moments that you're feeling embarrassed and you're about to avoid something that actually you're just excited. You're anticipating a good outcome. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, just start small. You don't need to finish this video and then go and talk to 100 strangers. You can start off really small. Let's use the example of posting on social media. Film a video, post it to your account on private. Don't post it on social media just yet. Give yourself a taste of what it's like to put yourself out there. Finally, step number 3, focus on the bigger picture. I want you, when you finish this video, I want you to go down to the bottom and I will have a video linked where it will take you to another YouTube video where it shows you how small we actually are in comparison to everything else. We'll zoom out and it will show you how small Earth is, and then how small our galaxy is, and then how small our universe is. And it just gives you a little bit of perspective. The reality is, none of us are going to be here in 100 years' time. When you take a step back and you stop thinking about your own internal world and your own experience, and instead you take a step back and you look at the bigger picture of, is this thing going to be something that people remember in a week's time or a year's time? No, chances are they're not. Is it really that big of a deal? Do the best you can in those moments to focus all of your attention outwards and not inwards. You need to remember why it is you're doing these things, and then remember the cost that you are paying to avoid embarrassment, which could well be the life you've always been dreaming of. Before I end this video, I would love for you to give me a like and subscribe to this channel. This is my third video on this YouTube channel, and I am still absolutely loving making these videos, and I've had some really good feedback from people, so I'm just excited to keep going. Before you go, I just want to leave you with one final thought. Maybe embarrassment isn't a warning light to stop what it is you're doing, but instead, it is a sign to keep going.